Brazil's ethanol market is at a turning point. Corn-based output is rising fast, questioning sugarcane's long dominance. And to explain why prices are spiking into late 2025 and how blend mandates and tight inventories factor in, I'm joined today by StoneX Brazil market intelligence analyst Rafael Borges, who co-authored a report on the matter. Great to meet you, Rafael.
Thank you so much, Fiona. Pleasure to be here with StoneX TV.
So firstly, I would like to ask you, why do you call 2025 a turning point for Brazil's ethanol market?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. So the reason why we say it's a big turning point, and we have been seeing that from the events that we are going, talking to the producers, it is mostly because of the corn ethanol production rise here in Brazil. So that has been a big factor in the increased output. For the next crop year, we expect a record production in the center south of Brazil. And historically, since the 70s here in Brazil, we have a program called Pro Alcohol. That program established both a mandate for ethanol in Brazil. So we have a mandate for gasoline, and also we can fuel our cars 100% with ethanol here in Brazil. Historically, that production has been coming through the sugarcane mills, so that can produce both sugar and ethanol, depending on what prices are more favorable in that harvest year. And right now, since 2017, we have been seeing a big increase of ethanol production. Sometimes we see in the state of Mato Grosso, which is in the heart of Brazil, in the heart of Latin America, the profit margins for ethanol production through corn sometimes 3 or 4 times bigger than ethanol production through cane, and that has been driving very big expansion of capacity, production capacity. We expect in the next 5 years this market more than doubling here in Brazil, and that has been bringing forward a lot of changes here in the sector and bringing also a lot of worries of where that demand is going to go in the next few years.
So you mentioned the Centre-South region. How is corn ethanol expanding geographically beyond the Centre-South?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, in the state of Mato Grosso, which is in the heart of Brazil, is the biggest corn producer state here in Brazil. We have today 30 mills of corn ethanol production here in Brazil. 17 of those are in the state of Mato Grosso, and we are seeing the new projects that are coming in. A lot of them are in the northeast region, which is the new fourth frontier of corn here in Brazil. So in the states of Maranhão, Piauí, also Bahia, we are seeing a very big production increase of corn in those regions, and also corn ethanol following that production increase in those regions. Something that is very interesting to see, because today in Brazil, we have a very well-established ethanol market in the Center-South region, mostly in the states of São Paulo, Minas Gerais, Mato Grosso do Sul, which have a very high rate of consumption of ethanol, 100% in the fuel stations. So you can choose between ethanol and gasoline, depending of which fuel is more feasible in terms of price. And in the northeast region, usually ethanol is not that competitive in comparison to gasoline. So due to corn ethanol increased production, we should see ethanol being more competitive in those regions in the next few years.
Now let's talk about price. Why are ethanol prices relatively elevated now, and what do you expect in the medium to long term?
Yes, that is a great question, because the market is seeing the long term ethanol supply. So they see that corn ethanol is going to be a very big factor in increasing production. But in this harvest, we see that ethanol production through cane is almost 15% lower than the last year. So that is due to three main factors that relate to wildfires in 2024, also less quantity of recoverable sugars by ton of cane harvested, and also a sugar mix that has been much more favorable to sugar production. So sugar is currently paying more than ethanol in the Brazilian market, but that figure has been coming very close to ethanol, and that is because of all the price deterioration that we have been seeing in the sugar market this year. So the reason is mostly related to those factors. So we see ethanol stocks more than 25% lower than last year. And because we had an increase in the blending mandate that went from 27% to 30% in August this year, that is also a factor that is that should drive prices of ethanol to record highs for this season in the final months of 2025 and the start of 2026, although we expect a record production in the next year.
And you also mentioned in your report additional policy and taxes. How are these shaping prices into early 2026?
Yeah, so ethanol history is closely related to tax subsidies and also related to gasoline. So since the 70s, we see the ethanol prices and taxation is lower than gasoline relative to gasoline. So that is a big incentive for consumption here in Brazil. For the next year, we see a tax increase for gasoline that should probably be compensated by lower crude oil prices in the international market, lower gasoline prices, but we should see a tax increase for the next year. Also, very important in terms of policy is the blending mandate. We just mentioned that in August, that mandate went from 27% in gasoline to 30%. That is an increase of more than 700 million liters of ethanol that is being blended in gasoline just for the 25-26 harvest. And the government already has a plan for that number that could go to 35%. So that could really accommodate some of that excess supply of corn ethanol that we should see in the coming years.
Finally, Rafael, let's talk about mills. How will they need to adjust the sugar ethanol mix in 2026, 2027?
Yeah, that's a great question, especially because as we've been mentioning, the corn ethanol production has been driving the ethanol supply much larger in the center-south region. We also mentioned that the profit margin of the corn ethanol plants are sometimes 4 times uh, that of sugar mills producing ethanol. So they are able to sustain much lower prices for a extended period. That drives mills to divert their production from ethanol to sugar. The sugarcane mills here in Brazil should be seeing their sugar max in their capacity of production. We already saw that this year, and the next year we also should see a similar scenario. Sugar is also already paying more than ethanol. That number has been coming closer in this year. That is because of the price deterioration of sugar in the international market, but because of this long-term trend of corn ethanol production driving prices lower, we should see the sugar mills diverting their production more to sugar in the next few years.
Well, thank you very much for your insights once again.
Thank you so much. Pleasure being here.
For deeper insights and analysis, scan the QR code or click the link in the descriptions to download the quarterly Commodities Outlook.